Hi everyone, I'm Richard.
And I'm Angela.
Today we're going to talk about travel sickness.
Is that where you have to go to the bathroom a lot?
No.
Oh.
It's where when you feel dizzy and you feel sick to your stomach.
Oh, I know. It's called altitude sickness, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, altitude sickness 就是我们今天要讲的这个 altitude 就是海拔的高度，所以当你爬山爬到一个高度的时候呢，你就会感觉到有高山症了。So dizzy, how do you spell the word dizzy?
It makes me feel dizzy to spell dizzy because there's so many Z's.
So many Z's.
D-I-Z-Z-Y. D-I-Z-Z-Y. 2 Z's.
所以有高山症的时候呢，这个时候你会感觉到晕眩 ，and then you feel like throwing up，
Yeah.
你就会想要呕吐这样子。OK， 这个就是高山症的症状啦。OK, let's take a look at today's dialogue A.
The dialogue 情境对话
Will you just look at how beautiful the views are here?
Uh-huh. I'll take your word for it.
You don't look so good. How are you holding up?
I'm not. I'm really dizzy, have a bad headache, and feel like throwing up.
That doesn't sound right. Let's go ask the guide to get you some medical help.
Oh, Jerry is in a really bad state, but I've seen these symptoms before.
I'm really worried. What's going on with him?
He's got a case of altitude sickness. It happens a lot because we increased our elevation pretty quickly on the train ride here.
I think I need to sit down.
The explanation 内文讲解
OK， 我们看到 Jerry and Sylvia have just arrived at. Arrive at， 我们一般呢后面加小的地方，譬如说你加上这个办公室啦，或者加上机场啦，这一些的都算是小的。那如果是加上 in 的话 ，arrive in 的话是加大地方，譬如像国家或者城市 ，arrive in Taipei，arrive in Taiwan 这样子。OK， 抵达的意思。譬如我们说 ，call me when you arrive at the office。当你抵达办公室的时候，请拨个电话给我。OK， 这时候办公室是小的，所以我们要 arrive at。后面的 destination 呢，则是目的地的意思。
Okay, let's look at sentence 2. Will you look at how beautiful the views are here? She says, will you just look at how beautiful the views are here? When you put someone like just, you're emphasizing it. Will you just look at that? Is more emphasized than will you look at that?
OK， 所以在这里他就说了 ，Will you just look at how beautiful the views are here？ 这个 view 的一个用法呢，一般 view 跟 scenery 都是可以表示景色，不过呢 view 是可数的它表示从一个地方看出去这样的景色。Scenery 它是集合名词，不可数，通常是表示一个地方整体的一个景色。譬如我们看一下例句哦，他说 The view from the top of the tower was spectacular。OK， 从塔顶远眺景色蔚为壮观。这个从塔顶看出去的这个景色，我们要用 view。The scenery is magnificent。OK， 这里的景色真是壮丽，所以这里的整个地方的景色要用 scenery。OK， 所以他就说了，你呢，赶快来看一下我们这里的这个景色，看出去有多么多么的美丽。
And he goes, I'll take your word for it. And that's kind of weird, right? He should be the same as her, like, wow, this is so amazing. But actually, he's like, sure, whatever you say, I believe you. He's not that enthusiastic about it.
OK， 所以这里呢 ，so take your word for it. What does it mean?
It means I will believe whatever you say. I'll just use your word as the truth. I'm not going to check it out myself.
所以呢，在这里我就相信你所说的啦。OK， 他这里说 I will take your word for it， 这是一个我们常用的一个惯用语。OK， 那我们接下来看一下 tips and use。
Tips and use 重点解析。
大家好，我是 Camille。今天的 Tips in Use 要教大家的是相信某人的话的说法。那本文中有出现 take your word for it， 就表示相信你说的话。那这里的 word 呢是表示你所说的话，在这个片语中只能使用单数哦。take 加所有格加 word for it， 也可以写成 take 加某人加 at 加所有格加 word。那我们就来看看简单的例句吧。Don't take my word for it though. Go and check with your doctor. 不过，别相信我说的话，去找你的医师了解一下。I took him at his word when Eric said he could fix a leaking gas pipe. 我相信艾瑞克说的话，他说他会修理漏气的瓦斯管。这样大家学会了吗？ Take your word for it 就是相信你说的话。这样大家学起来了吗？那我们下次见喽，拜拜。
The explanation 内文讲解。
Now, because her friend is not so excited, he has this weird reaction. So Sylvia takes a look at him. She looks at him and then she says, you don't look so good. That's not like saying that, his hair is bad or something. She's saying his face doesn't look good. He looks like he's feeling bad. Like, are you okay? You don't look so good. Do you feel dizzy?
好，所以在这里呢 Sylvie 就说了 You don't look so good. 你看起来好像不太好诶，好像身体生病了怎么样子的。
So then she asks, how are you holding up? Now, he's not literally holding something up. He's holding himself up. If you're not holding up, you'll feel like this. So, how are you holding up means how are you doing? Are you still okay? Because when you're traveling, it takes a lot of energy. So she's asking, do you still have enough energy to do what we want to do?
好，所以我们在这里看到这一句呢，他说 How are you holding up？ 在这里呢，你的情况还好吗？你还好吗？我们刚刚有听到，在这个旅行过程当中，会需要花到很多的这个精力 ，energy 那个字呢，就是精神精力啦。所以在这里 ，Sylvia 她就看到了她的这个伙伴 Jerry 呢，感觉好像体力不济了。好，我们来看一下 Tips and Use， 了解一下 How are you holding up 怎么使用。
Tips and Use 重点解析。
大家好，我是 Camille。当你要问别人你感觉如何，你还好吗的时候，你可以说 How are you holding up？ 表示你还好吗？意思就是 How are you feeling？ 用来表达对别人的关系。那我们就来看简单的例句吧。比如说 A 会说 I've been working for 12 hours straight。那 B 就可以说 How are you holding up？ 所以就是 A 说我已经连续工作12个小时了。那 B 就会说哦，你还好吗？这样大家学起来了吗？ How are you holding up？ 就表示你还好吗？那我们下次见喽，拜拜。
The explanation 内文讲解。
So in way Sylvia asked him, how are you holding up? He answers her. He says, I'm not. That's a very direct way of saying, I don't feel well, there's a problem. Most people, when you say, how are you holding up? They'll be like, it's okay, I'm doing okay. But he says, I'm not holding up, it's bad.
OK， 所以在这里他回答了很直接了 I'm not holding up。OK， 我现在呢状况不是很好了。
I'm really dizzy. So here's our word dizzy. It means like your head is spinning or you can't think clearly. I have a bad headache, he says. If your head aches, it hurts. And he says, I feel like throwing up. Now, throwing up is the more common way to say it. The word that you guys get taught in school is vomiting, but vomiting is really more like formal. It's what doctors would say. Have you vomited? We'll just say throw up.
OK，
But one of my favorite ways to say throw up, toss your cookies.
Toss your cookies, right? That's another way to
Toss
say.
your cookies, meaning throw up.
好，这里呢，我们听到很多很棒的用法。第一个 I'm really dizzy， 就是我们刚刚提到这是晕眩的，我现在真的感觉晕眩了。OK， 那刚刚也有听到一个用法，就是当你晕眩的时候，感觉呢头在旋转My head is spinning. How do you spell the word spin?
Spin, S-P-I-N, S-P-I-N.
但是如果你用 spinning 的话呢，要重复一个 n 加 ing，OK， 就是旋转的意思。如果你感觉这个晕眩的时候呢，好像头在旋转 ，I feel like my head is spinning。
Yeah.
OK， 就感觉是晕眩的意思。OK，have a bad headache， 头痛啊，头痛欲裂 ，and feel like throwing up。OK， 这里有一个重点 ，feel like 后面要加 VING 啊，就是想要做什么事情。譬如我们说 I feel like eating out tonight， 我今晚想到外面吃饭。OK， 这个 eat out 也是一个片语。好，另外呢，我们讲到说呕吐 throw up 就是呕吐。那我们讲一般等于这个 vomit， 刚刚有听到老师讲了，这个 vomit 它是这个一般比较正式，医生会跟你说 Have you vomited？OK， 这个时候呢用这个呕吐。那一般人我们这个朋友之间聊天用 throw up 就可以了。
And so Sylvia says, that doesn't sound right. This is a problem here. There is a problem.
There, OK， 他说 That doesn't sound right， 听起来似乎不太对劲哦。
Let's go ask the guide to get you some medical help. And medical help is again more formal. She probably would have said, let's go ask the guide to see what we can do or see how he can help.
好，所以呢，他就说了 Let's go ask the guide， 我们去找那个领队 to get you some medical help。medical 就是医疗的，寻求医疗的协助。
So they go up to the tour guide and explain what is wrong. If you go up to somebody, it means you go to where they are. Or like you can go up to the counter at a hotel.
Right.
Like, let's go up to the counter and register.
OK， 所以刚刚听到这里 go up to 这是一个片语啦，就是走进哪里，走过去哪里这样子的意思，就是我们走过去这个柜台那边就是 go up to。所以在这里呢，他说 they go up to the tour guide， 他们走向这个导游 and explain what is wrong。
And then she says, or no, the tour guide says, Jerry is in a really bad state. A bad state means that your situation is bad, but he put really. And since he's the guy who's taking care of the tour, you kind of have to trust him that actually there is a serious problem here.
好，这里的 state 是状态的意思 ，in a good state 就是好的状态 ，in a bad state 就是呢状况不好了。所以 Jerry is in a really bad state， 状态真的很不好。But I've seen these symptoms before， 我看过这些症状 ，symptom 就是我们讲的症状了。这些症状我之前看过。
He could have just said, oh, I've seen this before. He doesn't have to say symptoms. He could just say, I've seen this before. I know what it is.
OK， 所以其实你也可以说 I've seen these before 就好了。
So Sylvia, she says to the tour guide, she says, I'm really worried. I'm so scared for him. What's going on with him? What is happening?
这里呢，他说 I'm really worried。OK，be worried about 点点点，对什么很担心？他说我真的好担心哦。What's going on with him？ 他到底怎么了？
The guide said, he's got a case of altitude sickness. If you have a case of something, this means this is your situation. And we talked about altitude sickness. It means there's not enough oxygen in the air, and that's bad for you. You need to breathe, right?
OK， 所以在这里呢，我们说 he's got a case of altitude sickness。OK， 他是一个个案，是什么样的案子呢？在这里，它就是一个高山病了。
And then he says, it happens a lot because we increased our elevation pretty quickly on the train ride here. If you increase your elevation, it means that you've gotten higher, like you're going up a mountain. You've increased your elevation, how high you are.
好，所以下一句他说 it happens， 这个会发生 it happens a lot， 常发生 because we increased our elevation pretty quickly， 很快的呢爬上一个很高的地方。在这里呢这个 elevation 就是海拔的高度。如果我们海拔的高度一下子升得太快的话，就会有这种症状。OK，on the train ride here， 像我们现在搭着火车这样子上来，一路上来太快了，就会有高山症。
And Jerry, he's really sick, so he goes, I think I need to sit down.
OK， 所以这里 Jerry 说 I think I need to sit down， 我需要坐下来。I need to sit down.
That means, I think I should sit down means, I'm going to sit down now.
Take a rest, take a break.
It's like a polite thing to say. You're announcing what you're doing.
OK. All right, let's take a look at our dialogue B.
The dialogue 情境对话。
Is there anything you can do for Jerry?
The air is thinner at high altitudes, so his body is not getting enough oxygen.
It almost feels like I have a bad hangover.
What's the quickest solution for altitude sickness?
We need to get him on oxygen. And I know the hotel has a couple of tanks ready for just this kind of situation.
I'll be okay. So let's continue with our trip.
Don't be silly, Jerry. We're not moving until you're well enough.
She's right. You can make the situation worse if you don't give your body time to get used to it. You need to take it easy for the next day or so.
That's awful. Don't I have any other choices?
It's either that or we take you back down to a lower elevation.
The explanation 内文讲解
So, dialogue B starts with Sylvia saying, "Isn't there anything you can do for Jerry?" This means, is there something you can do to help Jerry?
好，所以这句很简单。他说，Isn't there anything you can do for Jerry？ 难道你没办法为 Jerry 做一些什么事情来治疗他吗？
But the problem is pretty basic. He's saying the air is thinner at high altitudes. Now, it's not that our air actually has thickness. What he's saying is there's less oxygen in the air. So, his body is not getting enough oxygen.
好，在这里呢，他说 the air is thinner at high altitudes。我们在这里看到这个 at 这个介词呢，常跟数字并用。譬如说 at the speed of， 以什么样的速度 ？at the altitude of，OK，、以什么样的海拔高度 ？at the age of， 以什么样的年纪 ？OK， 譬如我们说 we are flying at an altitude of 6,000 meters，、我们正以海拔6000公尺的高度飞行。另外呢，我们说 snow leopards live at high altitudes。雪豹呢生活在高海拔的地区，所以这种因为跟海拔高度跟数字有关，所以介词要用 at。So his body is not getting enough oxygen， 所以他的身体没有足够的氧气。
But we're talking about high altitudes like the Himalaya mountains.
Right.
Alishan is not high enough for us to have this problem.
对，所以我们一般说，在这种高海拔呢，一般就是像喜马拉雅山这种高度，会让人有高山症了。所以阿里山大家常去的话，应该是不会有这种的症状。
And Jerry says, it almost feels like I have a bad hangover. And a hangover is when you drink too much alcohol, and then the next morning you don't feel good. But, you shouldn't drink alcohol and drive, just telling you this.
很好啊 ，Never drink and drive，、就是喝酒不开车，酒后不开车。这一句呢，他说 It almost feels like I have a bad hangover。OK，hangover、就是酒后的宿醉啦，所以感觉上我好像有点宿醉的感觉。
And hangover is when you feel dizzy and your stomach hurts and you don't want to eat anything, right?
And you toss your cookies.
And you toss your cookies. That's a really bad hangover.
对，我们刚刚有听到这个呕吐，除了 throw up， 我们之前有提到，也可以用 toss your cookies， 把你的饼干给丢出来、吐出来这样子。
So just don't eat cookies before.
You're kidding.
I'm kidding. Sylvia says, what's the quickest solution for altitude sickness? A solution is the solution to a problem means you figured out how to fix your problem. She says, what do we do to fix this?
好，很好。Solution 这个字我们介绍一下，叫解决之道。我们一般后面也会跟 to 并用。The solution to the problem 这个问题的解决之道，我们可以造一个例子说 We finally came up with a solution to the problem。我们终于呢想出了那个问题的解决之道，所以介词用 to。OK，what's the quickest solution for altitude sickness？ 这里也用 for。
And the solution is more oxygen. And fortunately, hotels that are in high places, they have this problem, so they have the solution. The hotel has a couple of tanks ready for this kind of situation. A tank is a tank of oxygen. You've probably seen them. They have like a shape like a torpedo, a tank of oxygen. And oxygen, by the way, pure oxygen, it's dangerous. When you have a tank of oxygen, you shouldn't have any electricity or any flames, any open flames, because it could do what? It could explode.
Flame 那个字呢，就是火焰的意思啦。在这里呢，他说 We need to get him some on oxygen， 我们必须要给他氧气。And I know the hotel has a couple of tanks ready for just this kind of situation。这个饭店已经准备好这样的预防措施了。
Now Jerry is like, oh, I don't want to mess around with getting oxygen. He's like, I'll be okay. Don't worry about me. Let's continue with our trip. He doesn't want to be a problem for everyone.
所以 Jerry 这里说了 I will be okay, so let's continue with our trip. 他不想要拖累大家，所以说让我们继续旅程吧。
But Sylvia, she's smarter. She's like, don't be silly, Jerry. Don't think that this is a small thing. And then she says, we are not moving until you're well enough. If you don't move, it means you don't go on with your trip. It doesn't mean they literally sit there without moving. She's like, we're not moving on until you're well enough.
And we are not leaving you behind.
Exactly.
好，所以在这里呢，他说 Don't be silly, Jerry. Jerry 别傻了 ，OK，silly、这个字呢就是傻了，别装疯卖傻，这样就别傻了。We are not moving until you are well enough. 我们呢，如果你还没有好起来之前，我们不会再继续移动，也就是不会再继续我们的行程了。OK， 我们刚刚用到了一个句子，一个片语叫做 We are not leaving you behind。Leave somebody behind 就是把某人留下来，自己往前走。OK， 这个 leave 这个动词片语 leave somebody behind。
And the guide said, she's right. Actually, please listen to your friend.
这个导游呢，他说了 She's right， 你朋友说对了。You can make the situation worse if you don't give your body time to get used to.
If you want to get used to something, it means that your body is okay with it. You have to adjust to something. Otherwise, if he just goes on, do you know what happens? He could actually die. Seriously.
That's serious.
You do not mess around with altitude sickness.
Don't mess with it.
Don't mess with it.
OK， 所以呢，在我们这里刚刚听到了这里，他说，如果你继续下去的话呢，真的是会很严重了。我们这里看到了 get used to，OK， 就等于 get accustomed to， 就是习惯。如果呢，你如果继续下去，你如果不让你的这个身体呢去适应的话，刚刚有听见一个动词叫 adjust，adjust to 点点点就是适应。你如果不让你的身体去适应高山症的这种情况的话，你可能会情况更糟。You can make the situation worse.
So he says you have to take it easy for the next day or so. Now, take it easy means relax, but you couldn't use relax in this sentence. Do you know that? Because this time it's not about relaxing, it's about taking it easy, meaning
Take it easy.
not push yourself or not do too much. So it means you have to do less for a few days.
Don't push yourself too hard.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
好，在这里呢，他说 You need to take it easy. 你必须要怎样呢？放松，在这里休息一下。For the next day or so. OK，or so 就是左右大约了。一般呢是加在数量词的后面，多少天 or so 就是大概多少天的意思。
So you could take a few grapes or so, as you like.
OK， 所以在这里我们可以造个例子了。Over the past 2 months, John has lost 10 kilograms or so. 约翰在过去2个月大约瘦了10公斤。OK， 就是大约。
You know, when you say or so, the
Or so,
emphasis on so. It's not or so, it's or so. The
Good.
next day or so.
Or so, that's a good point. 这个 or so， 我们在这个发音的时候注意到它的重音是在 so 的地方，数字这个量词后面再加 or so。
Now, Jerry, who is not happy to be everyone's problem, he's like, "Oh, that's awful. We have to wait here for a couple of days for me to get better." And no one likes to be what makes everyone else wait, right? So he's feeling guilty now, like, oh, everyone has to wait for me.
对，不想要拖累别人了。
Exactly. He says, don't I have any other choice? Is there another way to do this?
OK， 他就说了 That's awful， 真糟啊。Do not have any other choices？ OK， 我没有其他的选择吗？
And the guide says it's either that or we take you back down to a lower elevation. So he's saying your choice is either A or B. It's either that, meaning staying here for a few days, or we take you back down to a lower height where there's more oxygen.
好，这里的 either or 就是不是 A 就是 B 啦，所以不是这样就是那样。OK， 不是你休息呢 ，or we take you back down to a lower elevation。OK， 要不然我们就会带你到比较低海拔的地方。
So that's it for our dialogues, right? But tomorrow we still have 2 more. I think they're different characters, but come back.
OK, see you tomorrow.
Words and phrases 单字片语
Number 1. Dizzy. Leo felt dizzy after donating blood.
Number 2. Feel like. Aaron doesn't feel like going to work today.
Number 3. Throw up. Pregnant women often throw up during the first 3 months.
Number 4. Medical. The injured man needs medical care right away.
Number 5. A case of. I think I have a case of food poisoning.
Number 6. Increase. The new project should increase our profits by the end of the year.
Number 7. Continue with. Albert didn't continue with his education. Instead, he decided to become an actor.
Number 8. Take it easy. The old man took it easy and didn't push himself.
Extra words.
Number 1. Destination.
Number 2. Symptom.
Number 3. Altitude sickness.
Number 4. Elevation.
Number 5. Oxygen.
Number 6. Hangover.
The dialogue 情境对话
Will you just look at how beautiful the views are here?
Uh-huh. I'll take your word for it.
You don't look so good. How are you holding up?
I'm not. I'm really dizzy, have a bad headache, and feel like throwing up.
That doesn't sound right. Let's go ask the guide to get you some medical help.
Oh, Jerry is in a really bad state, but I've seen these symptoms before.
I'm really worried. What's going on with him?
He's got a case of altitude sickness. It happens a lot because we increased our elevation pretty quickly on the train ride here.
I think I need to sit down.
Is there anything you can do for Jerry?
The air is thinner at high altitudes, so his body is not getting enough oxygen.
It almost feels like I have a bad hangover.
What's the quickest solution for altitude sickness?
We need to get him on oxygen, and I know the hotel has a couple of tanks ready for just this kind of situation.
I'll be okay, so let's continue with our trip.
Don't be silly, Jerry. We're not moving until you're well enough.
She's right. You can make the situation worse if you don't give your body time to get used to it. You need to take it easy for the next day or so.
That's awful. Don't I have any other choices?
It's either that or we take you back down to a lower elevation.
Just for fun 趣味英文
Coca leaves. Few people have heard of coca leaves because they are illegal in most countries. In the few places where coca leaves are legal, they are considered an important part of traditional culture. In fact, they have been used as a medicine in South America for centuries. They are often used as a treatment for altitude sickness, headaches, and tiredness. Coca leaves are illegal because they can be used to make the drug cocaine, which is illegal in most countries. Cocaine is a much more powerful version of coca leaves and used to be used as a pain medicine as well. It also used to be in Coca-Cola, but it's not anymore. Although Coca-Cola does still use coca leaves for flavor. OK， 我们今天看到了这一个小常识呢，讲到了这个古柯叶有一种毒品呢是古柯碱，当然了，毒品是有害人心有害人的身体的，所以呢千万不要尝试。不过在这里呢，这个小常识告诉我们，在某一些国家，这个古柯叶呢它是合法的。 那在那里呢用来治疗，甚至可以用来治疗高山病啦，或者是头痛，或者是一些疲劳等等我们这个市面上有一种的饮料呢，有一种可乐的饮料，它也是使用了早期的这个配方里面有使用了这个古柯叶。OK， 虽然他们现在已经停止使用了，不过他们还是会用古柯叶来提升它的味道了。OK， 这就是今天的小常识喽。